Art, a New York couple who were popular on social media now under arrest and charged with conspiracy to launder $4.5 billion in stolen Bitcoin. The Department of Justice seized $3.6 billion of those funds. This is the largest financial seizure ever. The stolen Bitcoin is tied to a 2016 hack of digital currency exchange Bitfinex. Joining me right now is Cipperman Compliance Services founding principal, Todd Cipperman. And Todd, it's great to have you this morning to talk about this. What do you make of this story?
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I think it's sort of a counter story to what's going on in the House right now. A lot of concerns about cryptocurrency security and trading, et cetera. I think this shows just the opposite. Look, the law enforcement were able to track these people down, and they actually said part of the reason was the blockchain is there, lives forever. It's a great record, and it shows that maybe cryptocurrency is not the Wild West that some people portray it as.
Yeah, I mean, House lawmakers are debating whether the federal government should be forcing stablecoin issuers to follow strict federal bank regulations or in order to limit risks. Tell me about the regulatory framework and how it fits into something like this. You know, the Undersecretary of Treasury for Domestic Finance is Nellie Liang. She told lawmakers that the stablecoin market value boom highlights the urgency for more oversight and regulation.
Well, I think she's right. I think the cryptocurrency market and stablecoin probably does need regulation. I think it will make people feel safer with the market. It will help investors come into that, much like regulation of funds allowed people to go into mutual funds and made it the most successful product in the world. But I think the kind of regulation is where I sort of differ. I don't think making coin issuers, particularly stablecoin issuers, insured depository institutions is the right approach. That's more of a prudential regulation approach. I think what we need more is a financial regulation approach. And I would like to see the SEC or perhaps the CFTC be the primary regulator and look at this as a product and deal with the specific issues rather than do an overall regulation like banking, which has not been terribly successful, as you may know.
Well, what do you make of China's push against Bitcoin? I thought it was really compelling. There's a story in the Wall Street Journal today about Beijing's digital currency and how it's taken market share away from Visa. So the story basically says that for decades, Visa was the exclusive electronic payments company for the Olympics. And now at this year's event, Beijing Games, Visa is having to share the spotlight with China's new digital currency. And, you know, you're seeing China and its strategy of rob, replicate, and replace. That's what John Ratcliffe told us about in every industry. And here we have now China pushing back on Bitcoin, coming up with its own digital currency, and it's taking some serious market share away from Visa at the games.
Yeah, I think China's onto something, but I think we should learn something from that. I think actually the criticism of Visa taking money away, I think, is real. Look, the credit cards are expensive, and they're really an inefficient form of a payment mechanism. And I do think there's a lot of validity to the argument that cryptocurrencies, and particularly stable coins, could be a better payment mechanism, especially cross-border, than credit cards. Remember, credit cards were this newfangled device back in the 50s and 60s, and we all got used to it. But the reality is, cryptocurrency transactions are probably more efficient. Now, the question becomes, what should the United States do? Should we just say, no, we're not going to allow it? Or should we say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should think about our own version of a digital currency, which I think has been contemplated. At some point, we got to think about the political implications of who's going to be behind all these digital currencies. And stable coins that are backed by the U.S. dollar, I think, could be a real opportunity for the United States.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see how things are playing out. I want to bring Ryan Payne in, but let me just show you our audience Bitcoin, which has been rebounding. It's now above $43,000 again. Strategists at J.P. Morgan are calculating the fair value level of Bitcoin at around $38,000 based on it being 4 times as volatile as gold. So the strategists at J.P. Morgan think Bitcoin could be a lot lower. Ryan, jump in here.
Yeah, I think J.P. Morgan's generous at $36,000 actually, and I think Jamie Dimon says you can't call it a currency, you have to call it a token. So Todd, what I wonder is, let's say the U.S. does come out with their own digital currency, doesn't that just put the kibosh on all these cryptocurrencies that are out there? And I mean, look at for instance, Bitcoin. Talk about regulation. I wonder, take a platform like Coinbase. where you can borrow against your Bitcoin, which is one of the most volatile asset classes I know of. You can't borrow on penny stocks at a regular brokerage house. Like, isn't that very problematic with all this leverage? You get another cascading sell-off in a lot of these, speculative currencies. It just seems to me like once the government steps in, that's kind of the end for a lot of these cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get your point, and I think it's a very valid point. But I think financial markets are incredibly resilient and unpredictable. And because of that, I think let's wait and see. The president's working group, there was this big harbinger of doom, all these terrible things that could happen with stable coins. And they may happen, they may not happen. I heard the same argument when money market funds were created. Oh my God, it's going to take money away from CDs and disintermediate banks. Didn't really happen. Yeah, maybe you're right, Ryan. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'd like to see. Let's see where the cryptocurrency market goes. I think people are overstating the importance of the investment directly in cryptocurrency and understate its use as a digital currency. And I'd like to see how that pans out. There's a lot of uses for this, particularly in the securities markets in terms of security settlement. And I would hate to see the government put the kibosh on it. At the end of the day, though, I would like to see more regulation so it's safer and less volatile. And again, I think the SEC or perhaps the CFTC is the right regulator, not the banking regulators.
I find it fascinating what has happened to Visa in China, because Visa is one of the major sponsors of the Olympics. And here you have a situation where China is cutting into its market share with its own digital assets. So this whole rob, replicate, and replace strategy, which John Ratcliffe has told us about so many times, is alive and well during the Olympics in Beijing. Todd, thanks very much for being here. Great to catch up with you on all of this. Thank you, sir.